Hello, beautiful friends, and welcome to the most biased media on the internet. My name is Annabelle Kale. Today I am subbing in for Slade because he is not available right now. And it is September 15th, 2024, and we will be talking about the latest presidential debate. I am here with
Emma McGaw
and John George.
And a 99-cent iced coffee.
Yes! I've got my half-price Sonic drink.
Woo!
My Dr. Pepper.
I have an old bottle of water. That's
You're the healthiest of all of us.
Right. I am also dying, but you know,
you're not dying.
Well, the pain.
Went to the doctor.
I did. Nobody even acknowledged me for like the first 5 hours I was there.
That do be the case. Right? I got a concussion my first year. This is not related to anything political, but I mean, it kind of is. I got a concussion my first year. It literally is. I got a concussion my first year in college. They left me alone in a room for 4 hours, and then they came in and they're like, "You're no longer showing any symptoms, so go home." And I walked home.
Oh, you're still here? Okay, loser. Get out.
I've had a lot of concussions. They also charged me like $400 for sitting in an ambulance for less than 5 minutes. I asked them if I should go to the hospital, and they said, "We can't tell you.
It's a secret.
It's a secret."
Here's the bill.
So anyway, let's talk about this debate.
So last week was the first and probably last debate for the 2024 presidential election between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And let's just say a lot happened, but also nothing did at the same time.
Yes.
I think what happened was exactly what I expected to happen, which was that Kamala Harris had well thought out policies that she laid out very clearly and explicitly, and then Donald Trump straight up said he had no plan but a concept of a plan and claimed that they burned Minneapolis to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy. I don't know. Were you guys going to tell me that they burned Minneapolis to the ground when I wasn't looking?
Yeah, Minneapolis is no longer a thing, apparently.
That's crazy.
In Springfield, they're eating cats and dogs. That's a thing.
My roommate keeps sending me remixes of people like, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs.
I've seen so many like Simpson memes about that.
Too.
I actually have a buddy who works on The Simpsons from time to time, so I gotta ask him what his thoughts are on that.
That is so incredibly cool.
Yeah, he's an actor. You know actors, they're all
people. That's so cool.
I do.
John
believe
knows
it or
a guy,
not,
actually.
I know a guy who knows a guy who
you know what I found out recently? My mom is like one friend removed from Katie Porter.
Oh, wow, okay.
One of her best friends is one of Katie Porter's best friends.
We'll have to do that one day. Is figure out how many degrees of separation there are between you and anybody else randomly in the world. But
it's always less
back
than
to
you
the
think.
debate.
Yes, I have notes.
Emma
took
notes.
Emma took notes. I didn't. I just make jokes the entire time.
I was calling John and I was listening to his jokes.
One of my favorite
jokes.
Cute.
I love that.
Thank you. One of my favorite jokes from that night was saying that they're just going to make it all trans Ghostbusters. Like I could have sworn
you said that.
Like I felt like that was coming once the avalanche of BS started unfurling. I was like, he's gonna. God, there were so many good lines from that.
They're gonna make it all trans Ghostbusters. They're gonna make them all trans. The aliens, they're making them trans. They're giving bottom surgery to the aliens.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts of that was when Trump said she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens in prison. Like, he just combined all the things he hates into one sentence. It was like, she wants to do it. She wants to do all of that.
Her personally, by the way. Like, she's not hiring surgeons. They're just sending her with an X-Acto knife and, like, a diagram.
Yeah, with the abortion part where he straight up said Tim Walz wants to execute babies, and then one of my favorite
dropping
things,
bricks on babies, like
one of my favorite things, what Lindsay Davis said after Trump went on this rant about how Democrats are executing babies. She goes, "There's no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born." Harris, what do you have to respond to this?
I know.
No, you guys have never heard of the postpartum baby assassinations that they're going on?
I think that's usually just referred to as like infanticide. Like I don't think that's
Liz. Yeah. Okay, so I've had controversial opinions in the Political Student Association when we had that. One of my opinions, which I will point out, is not an actual opinion I have, but is a comic opinion I have, is that we should be able to kill babies until they're 3, because that's when they start forming memories, and that's when they become a person. That's not what I actually believe, but I think that's what Trump thinks that Democrats believe.
You brought that up at the last time we had the discussion. Oh my god, that was like one hell of a PSA meeting. We had so many more people than we've ever had there before.
Yeah, because I tried to get people who would disagree with us, and then we got crazy people who didn't know what they were talking about.
But they disagreed with us.
The Great Value Noah Kahan. That was I remember Great Value Noah Kahan was there.
Yes. On campus still. I keep running into him because he's like mutual friends with a friend of a friend, and like I'm like, I don't want to look. He always like looks at me like he remembers me, but like
that's what towards the end of the semester he would like, I would run into him and he would completely ignore me. Like, I know he knows who I am. We had arguments and conversations, but like he would just completely ignore me and not want to be in the vicinity near me.
I see him look at me, I see him recognize me, and then he'll kind of like and look away. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't
actually, I don't know if you remember this, Emma, but when the department got together and had their little meeting at the bar, that night when we were in Drame, he was in the Drame lounge trying to put the moves on this girl he was watching. I think it was like Seinfeld with or something.
That's when I would see him. I saw him in the Drame lounge because I would be there before my forensics course. And I would see him in the Drame lounge when he would pretend he didn't know me.
That's crazy.
It's just because like the foundational part of his opinion was that women should just not be having sex, and there he was trying to get laid on a Friday night, and we were just there being loud and obnoxious.
His main opinion in the meeting was, if a woman has sex, she needs to deal with the consequences of that.
Yeah.
He didn't say it exactly like that, obviously.
I think it was like that everybody shouldn't be having sex, was like the opinion.
Yeah, but it's clearly because he's not having sex.
Right. Because he was trying, because we saw him try, and it didn't go very well.
Well, I remember him specifically saying some weird crap about how he just had opinions about how it should be held in a higher regard than it is, and I just remember being so like uncomfortable with all of his opinions around like sex and abortion, because almost all of them were like personal moral opinions that shouldn't be applied to legislation. And like,
yes. And the fact that what I got from the meeting mostly was that the men were not letting the women in the meeting speak. Like, it was only the men's.
John did.
I shut up for like a good hour.
Yeah, you did. It wasn't you. It wasn't you at all. It was the group of three.
Him to speak, because I was like, they're listening to John. Like, actually, maybe he can speak for me for a little bit as a treat, because I know that they're going to listen to him and they're not listening to me.
Yeah, they were not listening to us. That's why I said the 3-year-old thing, because I'm like, they don't care about our opinion. I'm going to just say whatever I want.
We should be able to legally murder toddlers because they won't remember it.
They won't remember it. They don't have any memory. They're not sentient beings yet.
So true.
Anyway, back to
what were we actually talking about?
We were talking about the debate, actually.
Oh, I remember that part. Thank you.
One of the things in the beginning was Trump distancing himself from the 2025 plan. Mm-hmm. I looked into this afterwards because I was curious about his connection with it, and he is not directly necessarily connected with it, but a large amount of the people who created it worked for him and worked in his cabinet and worked closely with him, and he supported them, and he said he values their ideas and he agrees with them. He also said about the 2025 plan, I have never read it, and I'm never gonna read it. He seemed to think that that was a good thing. He seemed to think that that was a slam dunk. Like,
I don't know.
I'm not gonna read this. I'm not gonna educate myself. And it's like, you just sound like I don't want you to lead the country. You're not gonna read what's like. I disagree with a lot of things. I read what I disagree with, so I know what I'm disagreeing with.
I also like he always does this thing when he like talks about things or makes arguments that I just make me so, like, how can you take this man seriously? He can't say a normal thing. He just has to go to like the immediate extreme. Like when he was saying like I'm gonna fix XYZ for all Americans, he was like, I'll do it before I'm even president. I'll do it when I'm the president-elect.
Yes,
which like isn't possible.
He said that with the wars. He said he's gonna end the which ones? The Ukrainian Russian war, and when he's president-elect. And he is going to end the Israel-Palestine war when he's president-elect. Which he has no plan for that. He said he has no plan for that.
He has a concept of a plan.
He has a concept of a plan. He's just gonna do it. Yeah. I was gonna go to something else.
Like, he can't even just be like, oh yeah, like, I think this is really important. I have some ideas. He's like... He's just lying, and I'm like, how can you take this man seriously when he can't even like say a rational thing? He has to lie every time.
He had zero concrete ideas on anything. He had no plans. One of the things I loved that Harris did was she said, I have a plan. Let's compare plans. Let's see how our plans differ. And Trump did not want to say what his plans were because he doesn't have a plan.
It's a secret.
Another thing Trump did was he constantly, every single question, he turned into being about immigration, which I think was a terrible move on his part. I think he was bad. I think it was specifically a terrible move because he killed the immigration bill that I didn't like.
I'm so glad she brought that up. As soon as she started talking about it, I was like, yes, here she goes. She's going for it.
Yeah. She brought a lot of facts, concrete things. One of the things she did she did a lot of things I loved. One of the things she did was she said, go to a Trump rally. See what he talks about. He's not going to talk about you. He's talking about what he can do for himself. I was listening to a Pod Save America podcast, and they were talking about how when Trump talks about things that he wants, like keeping himself out of prison, he's passionate about it, he's loud about it. When he talks about anything to do with the general population and how he's going to help them, he says, it sounds like he's reading off a script. He doesn't seem to care, he's not interested in it, and he moves on. Another thing they mentioned was that he is very Pavlovian about what he talks about. So he starts to talk about the economy, nobody claps, stops talking about it. He talks about conspiracy theories, everyone's in an uproar, and he goes deep into that.
That's so true. I've never thought about that. Like, he needs some kind of external validation, like, to his party tricks, or he won't keep talking.
Absolutely. He doesn't care if he doesn't get praise for it.
And I think that's why he did so poorly one of the reasons he did so poorly in the debate last week, and that was because, well, one, there wasn't an audience, and two, because you saw that he immediately pivoted to conspiracy theories, the famous, the infamous, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, it's just like, and to know that sort of was a talking point that was invented by J.D. Vance, and it's funny because obviously I spent a lot of time online because, what else is there? And so you see...
Like, in terms of hobbies? Like, what else is there to do?
Listen. I have a problem.
I know.
But it was interesting seeing the talking about Haitian immigrants eating family pets was something that was emerging in right-wing spaces, like the fringe right wing, your weird uncle on Facebook type beat. Like even my mom was like, "Look at that," and then I was like, "No, that's not. It's not a dog, mom. It's not a dog. It's a lamb. That's
Yeah.
a completely different animal. Lamb's pretty good. I don't know if you've had it.
Yes.
We have
really
to
good.
fix that, Annabelle. We'll go to the Indian place. In Potsdam.
There were several things that came about because of this. So one of the less harmful things, residents of Springfield were talking about, we've never heard of this until President Trump started talking, or former President Trump started discussing this. We've never heard this rumor. One of the more harmful things that came about it, there were several bomb threats at schools in Springfield because of what former President Trump said. People are going crazy. His supporters are full on believing him and threatening the residents. And it's not only, it would be absolutely horrible if it only affected the Haitian residents. That's not a good thing, obviously, but it's affecting all of the residents. It's putting everyone in danger.
And I think that's what scares me so much about conspiracy theories like this, is that even though, like, to you guys and to me, it's like, oh, that's batshit crazy, there are so many people who fall for misinformation regularly, who have no media literacy, who can't, like, understand that certain things are just not true. And what scares me is, like, how do we stop that? Like, how do we help people become more media literate? How do we, because this is causing real damage. Like, this is spreading so much racism and danger to the American population.
And I think the key to that, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, I think another problem too is that the call is coming from inside the House. As a result of Trump lost that debate hands down. Like there's no reading of that says otherwise. And so a conspiracy theory has emerged that ABC gave the questions to Kamala Harris ahead of time. Like that would have mattered because none of the questions were like particularly difficult questions. They were all like softball questions that like anybody who did any debate prep would have anticipated being there.
Standard.
And so they said that there is a conspiracy theory that's been floating around online that that ABC leaked the questions to the Harris campaign ahead of time. And then the reporter that reported the leaks was killed in a car crash earlier today, and that like this is a person that doesn't exist that was killed in a car crash that didn't happen. And Marjorie Taylor Greene was tweeting out that this stuff. And so when I say the call's coming from inside the House, I also mean the House of Representatives. And it really shows how like sort of just bizarre we've gotten, the turn that things have taken, that Donald Trump has a bad night like he's been having most nights for the last year, and suddenly that becomes a whole conspiracy against Trump by ABC, the which is a company owned by Disney, one of the largest corporations in the world that has benefited from Trump's economic policies against him. And it's just so it's so jarring because I mean it's a stark contrast in between the debate back in June where we all saw Joe Biden be like, oh, he has to drop out, like he cannot be doing this job. He's shown that he's not up to the task. And then when Trump does the same exact thing, his supporters are like, no, actually ABC is in cahoots with Kamala Harris and all that
and Hunter
stuff.
Biden's laptop.
And Hunter Biden's laptop and
they're
all
they're
of
always
that.
going to find a way to bring that up. He's he's like the I don't know, standard Deus ex machina for like every Republican argument is like, well, have you considered the laptop? Did you think about what about the laptop? Are they putting all the Biden family in prison yet? Then I'm right.
You see, Hunter Biden on his laptop has a Sims game where they're eating the cats and the dogs.
One of the things I enjoyed about the debate was that Harris handled it like an attorney. Like, it was well thought out. You could see So there are several things I liked about it, obviously. I think she killed it. I think she did a great job. I think Trump showed
She
how
looked great too. Like her
yeah,
makeup was on point.
Yeah. So she handled it like an attorney. One of the things I loved, she was trying to make eye contact with Donald Trump. He would not look her way. Trump has said Kamala or Harris wouldn't even look at me. She couldn't even look at me. Have you watched it? Like, and it's clear that he's speaking to people who have not watched it or are delusional and are just going to hear whatever he says.
Although the Venn diagram between the two groups is damn near circle. I will say that, like, because she went out and she, like, shook his hand and he cowered behind his podium. And
she went out of her way to shake his hand. He was clearly not gonna do that. He went right behind the podium. She went in front of her podium, around, and to Donald Trump. I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was along the lines of...
It was like, nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Let's have a good debate, yeah.
We're gonna have a good debate, something like that.
It's crazy that they had never met before.
Yeah, that surprised me too, that this was their first time meeting.
Yeah, they met and then she killed him. That's she dragged him out in front of America and killed him. like a rabid dog, you know. She old yellered Donald Trump.
Yeah,
on the debate stage.
I definitely think a lot of the what's the term? Discourse, like trying to drag her character down after this has been really eye-opening.
Mm-hmm.
And yet also blind somehow. Like, I saw this post where somebody was like, she's wearing $800 earrings, and I'm like, that's nothing. Have you seen the suit costs of half of the senators in this country? And they wear different suits. Like, she wears those earrings all the time. Like, in every picture you can see her, like, wearing those earrings. And like,
right, they're not like one-time wear.
Right. And they're nice
like
earrings.
A lot of rich people do.
Exactly. And for her, like, you know, a middle-class American woman who worked very hard to get where she is today, you know, worked as an attorney and now, like, as vice president and potentially, you know, a president soon, like, to have a nice pair of earrings that are several $100s, that I feel like that's normal, right? And people are like, she's so out of touch with reality. I was like, and he's not?
Donald Trump is a golden toilet. That's like, you know...
Literally.
For someone in politics... Yeah. For someone in politics, $800 earrings that you wear repeatedly is abnormal. The fact that it's like, in politics, there's so much money. There's so much money. People get so much money, and it is not like, it's not abnormal that she has $800 earrings. It's abnormal that she wears them repeatedly in a good way to me. That she's not just throwing it away. That she's not like, oh yeah, I have several pairs of these and I just wear them once. Like, if you've seen the Housewives ever, that's all they do. They buy $1,000 outfit and wear it once.
And even if this was the first time she'd worn them, you know, this could be like one of the most important events of her life, of her career.
Exactly.
Like, this is like her first.
This is when you wear them.
This is
when you buy them for
earrings, right?
Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't know.
Although there was another conspiracy theory attached to that the earrings were actually an earpiece, that she was getting fed information. It's like, so it's because I think it's because Donald Trump is so stupid that he couldn't actually have a performance like that. So naturally, anybody who can, especially a woman of color, then she must have cheated somehow. When in reality, she's just incredibly educated.
Couldn't do it. You had to have cheated.
Right. Right.
Oh,
this is the.
Sorry,
these are the same rules my old roommate Noah plays Uno by, you know?
I love Noah.
Shout out to Noah. No, I love Noah too.
Shout out to Noah. I can hear him and Gabby watching TV like a room over. If I turn my gain up, you could probably hear the laughing. I think they're watching Doctor Who, actually. No, I was gonna say how, like, I do think it's also really interesting how the, I guess, politics of her being a woman of color is starting to break down some of the Republican grifters, like I'm seeing more and more like certain people who apparently are further right than other certain people saying blatantly racist things, blatantly misogynistic things. And then other people like in the conservative Republican wing of things are like, wait, that's like really fucked up. Why did you say that? Mm-hmm. And then it's just like I'm seeing more and more people like splintering off a little bit. And that does give me a little bit of hope that more people are kind of having their eyes open to the fact that like the right extremism is like too far. Like none of you are normal conservatives anymore. You're part of the extreme right.
I think that's a really great point because we saw that Laura Loomer, especially, who suddenly appeared in the spotlight and then disappeared just as quickly, was attacked Kamala Harris and said some very racist things that I'm not going to repeat, and then got called out by Marjorie Taylor Greene.
That's the comment I was thinking of about the White House smelling.
Right. Exactly. And I feel like if you're getting called out for being too racist by Marjorie Taylor Greene,
of all people,
then of all people, that's like, that's like being too racist for a Klan rally. That's being too purist for the Nazi Party.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's being too into eugenics for Silicon Valley tech bros.
Literally. That's like something I loved that Harris has said before and continues to say and said several times in this debate is that she wants to be a president for all. She doesn't care if you're Republican. She doesn't care if you're Democrat. She wants you to be better, to have a better life. And I think that's going to attract a lot of undecided voters. And I think that's going to attract a lot of not as extremist conservatives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's really... Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, that's what I was really hoping we were going to get from this debate is, like, I think, Democrats were looking for her to succeed and far-right conservatives were looking for him to say conspiracy shit. But I think there's a lot of people in the middle, conservatives who don't want to vote for him and, kind of centrist people who haven't really decided yet, who are now kind of, like, looking at the options like, okay, maybe she is the best of both sides. Like, maybe he's not the best conservative option anymore, that's what I'm really hoping we can get out of this because she's looking more and more rational, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think anybody who watched the debate who is not delusional will see that Harris is, while I don't agree with everything she says, I don't, and I've been vocal about that, she's clearly the better candidate. She's clearly going to raise the middle class, or at least attempt to.
Yes.
She's clearly...
Walz.
What?
I love Tim Walz.
Oh, I love Tim Walz.
The fact that she picked him as VP, immediately I'm like, bonus points. Like, I'm not just like, oh, standard good Democratic candidate. I'm like, you picked Tim Walz? Like, he's, like, actively done good things. That's crazy.
Yeah. And what I like about Tim Walz is he's changed. So I'm excited to see, hopefully, a VP debate, because I want to see Tim Walz in action. I really enjoy learning about his history and how he's changed his ideals and why he's changed his ideals. Like, he's very passionate about healthcare because his dad was sick and dying, and him and his mom and his family were saddled with a ton of medical debt. And that's just not fair. He's a veteran, so he has more opportunity. He has more kind of ability to succeed. He has more of an ability to kind of get unburdened by things like that lightly, because it does take a lot to get money from the government.
So true.
But I like why he believes in his things. And the same with Harris. I like that she explains why she believes the thing she said. In the beginning, I believe she talked about, maybe it's towards the middle, but she talked about why she believes certain things. So she talked about her experience as a prosecutor and why she became a prosecutor. She talked about her experience with her friend who had been sexually assaulted, I believe, and why she's very passionate about defending people. And not only defending people, but prosecuting people who are bad and do bad things. And I appreciate that. I think that I think she killed it. She didn't get sucked in to Trump. She didn't get sucked into any. She sucked him in. So one of the things I love she did.
Rallies. She came after rallies.
Yeah, she talked about the rallies. She talked about him being weak. That got him. Like, you could see it in his face, I think, that he was not happy with that. And then he went off on it. Like, he focused hard on that. Oh, here it is. Hold on. So Trump, one of the things Trump said a lot of things. So I have under immigration, I have a little section of what Trump said, and I have people don't go to Harris's rallies. They bust people in and pay people to go. She laughed when that happened. Trump said, we're going to end up in World War III. Immigrants are eating our pets. We're going to become Venezuela on steroids. And when it was Harris's turn to speak, she goes, talk about extreme, and laughs. And I thought that was golden. And then she went into real issues. So she talked about she has 200 Republican endorsements, quotes from Trump's former coworkers about how they hated working with him, how he's unstable, how he doesn't know what he's doing. And Harris talked about how issues that affect people, the American people, are not being addressed under Trump. Trump is not addressing issues that affect American people. I think it's clear to anyone who has stayed educated in politics and paid any attention. He wants to be president because he doesn't want to go to prison. That's it. That's why he wants to be president. He's not interested in prison. So he's going to do everything he can to be president. And he said that he's going to, what was it? He said that he's going to not allow the people of January 6th to go to prison for what they did if he becomes president. And he said a few things about how he's not going to allow certain people who have committed crimes that benefit him to go to prison. Melts. And then right after that, he talked about, I fire people. He went on a rant about that. I don't know if you guys remember that. I fire people. The people who are against me, I fired. That's why they're against. And he was like, the people who I fire write books about me. Nobody writes books about you.
I have to say my favorite moment from the debate was when Kamala Harris basically called him out for sucking up to dictators and whatnot. Because he name drops Viktor Orban, and he's like, Viktor Orban said that, like, nobody messes with me and all of that. And I was like, okay, like, that's not it's funny because it's one of those things, like, I remember, I think it was last time I talked about my theory as to foreign policy and, like, the average American, where, like, you say anything that's going on beyond our borders, they're not going to have any clue what you're talking about, but they're going to take it to mean that you know what you're talking about. And like, praising Viktor Orban of all people is, like, not, it's not exactly a great endorsement. And I think it was so funny that when Harris called him out for sucking up to strongmen type, he was like, he clearly did not understand that strongman is an insult.
Yeah.
Which I thought was funny. But just the fact that he was like, saying that these dictator types cozied up to him, and saying this like it's a selling point,
right,
was why he should be president again. And it was just, it was really funny to me because I'm just sitting there and I'm listening to him, and she calls him out, and she's like, this guy, you just have to flatter him and you can get what you want. And that's exactly the truth. That is exactly what happens. And I'm so glad she finally decided to call him out on that, because nobody really has. I mean, people have said things about him and his cozy relationship with Vladimir Putin, but little else. And I think that this was like the perfect opportunity to really get in there and talk about just how ridiculous his claims are and what they actually mean.
One of the things, I was looking through some of the quotes that John sent, when he was blaming Nancy Pelosi for January 6th, and John said, it was Nancy Pelosi in the House chamber with the candlestick. And I love that, because that's about what he sounded like.
Yeah, no, it was so funny because he goes from, January 6th isn't a big deal or it didn't happen to it's Nancy Pelosi's fault. And it's like Nancy Pelosi is like one of the victims of this event. And he's just going all out and saying, oh, it was her fault. He's literally blaming the victim because he refuses to take even a shred. Right, because he refuses to take even a shred of personal accountability for, a riot that he incited. And what was that line about him getting in good with the Taliban too?
Oh, yes. Let me find
Slade made a note of that one.
I'm with the Taliban.
Oh, Slade quoted, I got involved with the Taliban. Donald Trump.
Yeah.
He did say that. He said that straight up. I got involved with the Taliban. Which is wild because Harris said, I believe in response to that, generally, I don't remember exactly what she said, but generally, I don't speak to the aggressors. She didn't say this, but generally it was, they don't deserve a voice. We're trying to settle this. We're not trying to appease the oppressors. We're trying to end these wars. We're not trying to give people what they want so that they can keep doing it. I believe she mentioned, I'm not sure if she mentioned this or we talked about this, about appeasing Russia in this Russia-Ukraine issue would just cause Russia to believe that they can keep doing this. Believe that they can keep attacking nations and getting more land. And that's just not how we work in this modern age. That's not what we do. She said specifically about land borders, that they are, I believe she said sovereign, don't quote me on that. But she said that they're important. They're important to uphold, and we need to agree that they are important to uphold. And we're not just gonna attack other nations and try to gain their land. We don't do that anymore. That's not a thing that we do in the modern world.
There was another part of that. The moderators asked Donald Trump about how he feels the conflict in Ukraine should end. And it was like a total softball question where it's like, Vladimir Putin, the Russians need to withdraw from Ukraine and return the land that was stolen. Right. And that was like the obvious answer. Even if he were going to lie, that was the obvious answer. And he refused to say that. He refused to say that. And it was just so telling and so funny to watch him because they kept giving him an out. I don't know about you, but moderators for debates are not supposed to give you an out for something unless you're doing really poorly. And there he was, and they were giving him an out, and he wasn't taking it, and he was doubling down, and then he admitted that he would violate the Hatch Act if he was given the chance, know, because believe it or not, there are actually laws in this country that say if you are not actively, a member of the State Department or the federal government, you cannot go and make deals with foreign nations. You can't do that. You can't play diplomat without at least the authorization to do that by the United States government. And he's like, I'll do it. And he's like, he just listed another crime that he would commit.
Yeah. Because he doesn't understand it. He doesn't understand how politics works. He doesn't understand how any of this actually works. He doesn't understand the legal system. At a minimum, Harris thoroughly understands the legal system. She's been a part of it. She's been deeply into it. She knows the laws. She knows the laws of her states she's practicing. She knows the nationwide laws. Specifically for the war in Ukraine, when they asked him that question, he said, I want the war to stop. But then he went on this rant about how we are paying too much for NATO, I believe. He was saying Europe needs to pay more. We are paying way too much. I would take back our money and make them pay more.
Right. He gave the most pro-Kremlin, pro-Vladimir Putin response he could give.
Yeah.
And it's so very telling that that's really the best that he can do. And it's equal parts sad, terrifying, but also really funny that he cannot help himself when he is given every opportunity to segue away from that, to move away from that, and to say literally anything else.
Mm-hmm.
He can't. He says something dumb, or he says
he
something
can't help
that
himself.
Vladimir Putin. Right, he can't. He is incapable of helping himself.
When you have like a little cousin or a little sibling visiting at your house and you're playing like a video game that's probably way too above their level, but they really, really want to play, and like, you know, your mom or your aunt is like, you know, you have to let them play, and you just give them a controller but it's not plugged in or anything, so they think they're like playing at the same level as you. That's what we need to do to him. Like, we need to give him like a mock Oval Office with like some like coloring pages on his desk and be like, this is a really important file, you need to fill this out, and just like let him hang out in there for 8 hours a day, and just I think it'll keep him calm, like an adult pacifier, you know?
2 birds, 1 stone. Make his prison cell look like the Oval Office.
Exactly. He'd be fine. He wouldn't know the difference.
He wouldn't.
One of the things also that Trump was doing a lot, Trump was attacking Biden significantly.
He's not here. He's not. Yeah. He's not in the room with us. It's okay.
Yeah. At one point, Harris said, "You're not debating Biden. You're debating me."
Yeah.
Biden isn't here. That's not who we're talking
to her as Biden once, and she was like, "As you can see, I am not Joe Biden."
Yes.
It's because he misses his buddy. Okay.
He misses him.
Yeah, he knew that he could beat Biden, and he was really mad that Biden dropped out because he doesn't know that he can beat Harris.
I don't know if he can. I don't know. What do you guys think is going to happen? Because like I think that Kamala's going to win, but like I also don't know if that's just like the optimism in my heart saying that. Like I genuinely am a little worried.
I'm incredibly pessimistic when it comes to politics. I'm an optimistic person in life, terribly pessimistic when it comes to politics. I don't know what's going to happen. I hope and I pray that Harris is going to win, but honestly, who knows? We've cut our education budget so intensely. There's so much misinformation and disinformation. I don't know. People don't always watch the debates. People don't know what they're talking about. There's a good chance, there's a large section of the population that believes that Trump won that debate. Because they're not educated.
Jesus Christ.
And it's not, my problem with that, it's not their fault. It's the Republican Party's fault for cutting our education budget, for not educating people on political literacy, for not encouraging that. One thing Republicans do a lot is they discourage voting. They do a lot of ways to stop people from voting, a lot of ways to make it more difficult, because the studies have shown the more people who show up to vote, the more likely the vote is going to go Democrat. And
that's crazy. It's almost like majorities should win.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, I don't care who you vote for. And I've said this to people all the time. I don't care who you vote for, just vote. Mm-hmm. Get yourself educated, vote for what you believe in. I don't care if you disagree with me. I want your voice heard. I want everyone's voice heard. And that's why the Democrats tend to win, because once you're educated, once you vote, once you know what you're talking about, you start to realize the Republican Party, at least currently, is not looking out for you. And I don't agree with everything the Democratic Party does. In fact, I kind of hate the Democratic Party a good amount. But it's the best of our choices right now. It's honestly, in my opinion, the only democratic institution, the only Democratic Party, the only party encouraging democracy and encouraging freedom. And I think it's wild that the Republican Party touts all this, we need to be free, don't tread on me, don't take away my rights, and their whole thing is about taking away people's rights. Their whole thing is about raising up the rich and lowering down the poor. One thing I want to bring us to this, because I thought this was wild. Trump clearly does not know how tariffs work. He doesn't understand tariffs.
I don't either.
So I don't fully understand tariffs. I've looked into them. I clearly know at least a little bit more than Trump does. Trump mentioned that because Harris talked about the Trump tax, how Trump is planning on raising prices on everyday goods. Trump didn't seem to understand that putting tariffs on things raises the prices of everyday goods. So I wrote this down somewhere. He claims that tariffs would not raise prices in the United States. He said that a lot. He said, it's China who's going to pay. It's all these other countries who's going to pay. He doesn't understand that tariffs increase the price of goods and services because the other countries need to cover the cost of the tariffs, and higher prices are charged to the U.S. population. So we're going to have to pay more for goods and services that are charged with tariffs because they have to cover that money somehow. They're not going to just pay out of pocket those tariffs. They're going to increase the prices so that they don't have to pay as much. And he didn't get that. He does not understand that.
He can't.
Or he's purposely misleading the public so that they don't understand that.
Honestly, it could be either. Like, it really could go either way. Like, he could be lying. He could also just not know. I'm not sure he knows how to count at this point.
That's a lot of what Trump says. A lot of it, I'm not certain if he's uneducated or if he's purposely lying to less educated people. And I don't say uneducated as a it's your fault kind of thing. I don't think that I think a lot of the American population is uneducated. I don't think it's their fault. I think it's the government's fault. I think that we should have better public education around everything. I have a whole thing about public education. I think everyone should get free education up until past college because we want an educated population, unless you want to control them and mislead them.
There it is.
Yeah, you can see the Republican Party, and in the Project 2025, they want to cut public education significantly.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
It doesn't make any sense to cut funding to education unless you want to purposely mislead people and purposely take advantage of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want to leave all the children behind. They want to finish what George Bush started and leave all the children behind.
They want a population of uneducated people so that they can just say whatever they want and no one question it. It's gross. I'm full for education. I want every single person to be as educated as possible and make your own decisions. If you disagree with me, you disagree with me. That's fine. But I want you to be educated about what you're disagreeing with. That's what I had a big problem with that in PSA. The people who came regularly were generally well educated on each of the topics, generally more than I was. But the people who came kind of because they had big, passionate ideas on certain topics rarely were educated on it and consistently said the same thing, specifically when we talked about abortion. Consistently said the same things, and when I questioned it, or when anyone questioned it, they couldn't explain why they believed it. They couldn't explain how they came to certain conclusions. They couldn't, they had these, like, mantras and sayings, and that's it. That was the end of it. There was no education behind it. There was no reason for it. It was just, we heard this, we're repeating this.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I think, especially for the abortion topic, I think Harris did a fantastic job.
Oh, completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah, she did a great job with that question. She talked a lot about just women's rights to choose. She talked a lot about families who, and I think this isn't talked about enough. Families who do want to have babies, if you have an ectopic pregnancy and you don't take care of that, if you're not medically tended to, you might never be able to have a child in the future ever. And an ectopic pregnancy is no baby. It's not possible to give birth to that baby. It's outside of the uterus. It's not possible to give birth to that baby. Why not? It's a common medical procedure. That, like, I don't understand it. It's like, you broke your leg. Sorry. Can't do anything about it. Your leg's part of your body. It's a living thing. Can't touch it. It boggles my mind. And Harris mentioned that. She talked about that. She talked about IVF. She talked about how certain laws that have been put in place block IVF treatments because doctors are afraid. They don't know what's going to happen to them. They don't know what legal action might be taken against them if they do these procedures. And so they're just not, which is gross that we have medical professionals afraid of prison time for doing their job. Trump claimed to be a leader of IVF, which I don't know how. It's just not true. He had nothing to back that up. Oh yeah, and then he said the governor of Virginia wants to kill babies. Baby genocide, I have as a note. The moderators asked Trump directly, would you veto a ban on abortion? And he said, we don't have to discuss that, because that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I thought that was really annoying. It was like...
Because he knows the answer to that.
He does.
Because he would. Or he wouldn't, sorry.
Yeah.
He would not veto a ban on abortion. He would support a nationwide ban on abortion, even though he claims it's, he says everyone wants it to go to the state. So,
I hated
one
that.
thing he said...
What do you mean you can't just say everyone. You can't use blanket statements. That's not true.
Yeah, I was watching with my mother, who is a legal professional, and he said, legal professionals, all these people want this decision to go to the state, and my mom turns to me and she's like, I'm a legal professional. I don't want it to go to the states.
Me neither. It was a constitutional, like, thing. I mean...
It's a right, and it's never, ever been an issue until we try to control women. When we could control women in other ways, didn't matter. We didn't care. Now that women have more rights, we are holding on to any possible way to control women and control their rights. Because this is a great way to keep women down. Keep women in pregnancies that they don't want or that they cannot have. Make women feel guilty and responsible for things that they are not responsible for. In my opinion, I think abortion is a right. I think it's a medical procedure.
Mm-hmm.
I personally equate it to removing a tumor.
Yeah.
I don't think it's any different. The only difference, obviously, is that it could be a living thing. A tumor can't be like a self-sufficient living thing. But that's not currently a living thing. Currently, by definition, and I've been saying this for half a decade.
I know what you're going to say.
It's a parasite.
It's a parasite.
It's a parasite by definition. We get rid of parasites frequently. If someone says, I have a parasite, you're like, ooh, you gotta go to the doctor. Get rid of that shit now. I don't understand it. It was bad. The debate was bad on Trump's part, great on Harris's part. Harris did a great job of just getting her talking points out, getting out what she believed. Everything she said in her previous speeches, she repeated in this. She did a great job at talking about her ideals, her platform, what she was going to do. in the final statements, their closing statements, Harris did a great job. She restated everything she wanted. She talked about how she's going to invest in people. She cares about the American population. She doesn't want to put herself first. She's going to be a nonpartisan president. Her whole career, she's had one client, the United States people. Trump took his time to talk about how Harris hasn't done anything and won't do anything, how she believes in things the American people don't. Why didn't she do the things that she's saying she wants to do already? And then to shit on America, saying we're a failing nation. We're laughed at all over the world. There are wars all over. We're headed towards World War III because of nuclear weapons in Russia. Saying he rebuilt the military. What is this? And that Harris allowed criminal immigrants to come in.
Just demagoguery. He's just fear-mongering. I also want to say we're 5 minutes to an hour, give or take. Is there anything that we want to talk about the second assassination attempt before we wrap things up?
Yes.
I mean, what is there to say? Somebody showed up with a gun, pointed it in Trump's general direction, and I don't know what happened. I'm not going to say anything that's going to get me a knock on the door by the Secret Service. Well, even if it is a joke, they take that stuff so seriously, and understandably so. But it's just, I fear that there's going to be more instances of these. I fear that this, copycat is going to inspire further copycats because, if there's anything white men are bad at, it's being original.
Yes.
Yeah.
After the first attempt, I wasn't certain that there was going to be another one, but now that there's been a second one, I'm pretty confident that there are going to be more because that's, like you said, what white men like to do. They like to, now this is okay. Now this is the thing I can do.
Yeah.
He hid in the bushes while Trump was golfing. The Secret Service saw him, shot at him. I don't believe they shot him, but shot toward his direction. He escaped in his SUV. They eventually pulled him over, arrested him. He wasn't surprised, obviously.
Yeah.
The most disturbing thing to me is that I was golfing at the same time as Donald Trump, and that just feels a little gross. I don't love that.
I mean, you did pick, like, a white rich man sport. Like, unfortunately, I
know!
To say it.
I know!
What's your next pick? Is it going to be... Well, I already know you also play tennis, but polo?
I don't actually play tennis.
Oh, okay. I thought you mentioned
But yes, polo. I'm going towards polo.
You're going towards polo. Okay. You're going to start riding horses? I don't know.
Yes. I actually did... I did ride horses for, 7 years when I was a kid.
Wow, called it. Called it.
But yes, I will say I'm the only woman I've ever seen golf on this golf course that I go to. I've seen women ride in the golf cart with their husbands, but they don't golf.
Icons. I will say I have unfortunately dated a golf man before, and I can't speak too many positive things of the experience.
No, golf men and lax bros.
Yeah.
Very few positives.
Listen, I don't know what white men did with lacrosse to make it such a toxic sport, but that was our sport first. The creator gave that sport to us specifically, and then you guys let, the fuckboys of your people.
I'm sorry.
I can't speak for the fuckboys of my people.
God, that's a great line. That's a great line.
I can't.
Listen, it used to be something sacred. Although the lacrosse is going to be in the Olympics soon, so
Woo!
Oh, I also played lacrosse for a year.
Emma,
I hated it.
You're not helping.
I know. I'm the worst. I know that. I already know. We've been there.
Lamer sport. Come on.
I like the lame sports, the white men sports. Listen, sorry.
I ran.
I played rugby.
Okay. Rugby? Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, rugby was pretty awesome, and my favorite sport I've ever played. I got to tackle people and get tackled, and I was covered in mud all the time. It was the best.
Fun.
It was a vibe.
I did track once and I hated it because I don't like running.
I thought about doing track, but I don't like running.
well, I had like my best friend at the time is like really good at running, and she's like very athletic, you know, gymnastics for like 10 years and like super. So she's like, let's do track together. It'll be so fun. I was like, I guess, but I don't want to. And so I did it. And my mom is like low-key an almond mom. So she was like, yeah, you're exercising. I'm so proud of you. And then I was like, Mom, this is like the least amount of fun I've ever had in my life. And I hate it. And I intentionally took last in every single race I ever ran. I would just go as slow as possible because I hated it. And they put me in the long distance. I think until my very last race, I actually like passed like 6 people. Because I was like, I can try.
Very nice.
But I still hated it. I hated every second of it. No, I was a theater kid, unfortunately.
I loved the theater kids in my school. I was never a theater kid, but like I always vibed with the theater kids.
Yeah, me too. I was never a theater kid either.
I met you in a theater class.
I was taking that for an art credit.
Uh-huh. And by art credit, you mean getting bitches.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I say that?
That's the only reason to take theater.
Listen, there were no women in politics. There weren't any.
It do be like that.
It was a bit of a drought. It was me, Slade, Dan, Matt Ford, and that was as good as it was gonna get.
Yeah.
And I love all of those guys very much, but not like that.
There were a few women in some of my politics classes, but I wasn't a politics major, so I didn't take like politics major classes.
Mm-hmm.
Except also, one of them. I was allowed in an only politics major classes because I ran the Political Student Association.
Oh yeah? Which class was that?
It was with Hinckley. I don't remember. Was it a class?
Was it approaching political puzzles? Was that what it was?
That I took my first semester, and that was with Hinckley, and that was really good. I enjoyed that. That's what like launched me into, ooh, I want to do this. That's what got me.
When was your first semester?
Before the pandemic.
Okay, wow. I was gonna say it would have been crazy if we ended up in the same class and we just found out we were in the same class over COVID just now. I had that happen one other time.
I was in a class with Slade my second semester, and it was a public speaking class. I loved that class. That was amazing.
Was it like a Ways 103, or was it like an English course?
No, we didn't have Ways when I started.
Ways was like the new. I forget that sometimes.
It was
anyway,
just public speaking.
See, now we're just talking about SUNY Potsdam.
We're just SUNY Potsdam represent, but also don't go here. I can't say anything good about this school except for the fact that I love the people that I've met here. You guys are great. I love my roommates. I love my friends. You know, I think that the people are really great. The systems and the administration are kind of big.
Yeah. I love the people.
Yes.
Love the professors. I've had some excellent professors. I've had some horrible professors.
Absolutely.
Professor, I can't remember her name. She was my favorite professor. I'm bad at names.
A lot of great professors, though. I do have plans at like 8, though. So
yes,
all right.
So we'll end this.
Tap out.
Thank you so much.
Do we have a chill question for the end?
Oh shoot. Did you read my script? No, I'm kidding.
I did. And I really liked it.
Okay, let's talk about it afterwards because I want to talk to you.
I really enjoyed it.
We'll have a chill question for next time. In the meantime, thank you so much for tuning in.
Yes, thanks for listening.
Wait, I have a chill question for the audience.
Oh yes.
Are you registered to vote?
Yes, respond if you can.
If you're registered to vote, go register to vote. Get something, fill it out. I don't know. I would say do it online, but I actually couldn't figure it out, so I just did it on paper. John was making fun of me. He was like, "You're not doing it right. You know what you're doing. You're a woman, brah."
That is not, for the record, that is not what I said.
You didn't say that.
Exactly what he said verbatim.
You didn't say that.
Okay, thanks for listening.
Bye. Bye.